Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? All right. My name is Dr. Jay Gabbard, and I am a professor of social work at Western Kentucky University here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And before I get into the material today on college student mental health, I want to thank Melanie Cunningham and the staff of NAMI Kentucky for making this possible for me to be here with you. They do wonderful work, and we always feel supported by them here at NAMI in Bowling Green. So basically, today there are two main things that I'd like to talk about. The first of these is, what are the current issues facing college students today in the 21st century in terms of their mental health concerns? In doing so, I'd also like to tell y'all a little bit about my background and how I got into becoming a mental health social worker, a therapist, and then now as somebody who leads an an on-campus group for students who are struggling with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and suicidal ideation. And then the other thing I want to talk about is a group that we have created on campus in collaboration with the local NAMI chapter, local NAMI affiliate, that has been in operation for over 6 years now, and has been highly successful in supporting college students who are struggling with mental health. If you wouldn't mind, if you could hold any questions or comments to the end, I'm going to leave plenty of time at the end for us to answer questions, and also for us to share information with each other about college student mental health, because I certainly could learn a lot from y'all as well in your experiences. But thank you again for choosing to be a part of this session, and let's go ahead and get started. In terms of my background, I am what is called in the social work profession a wounded healer, meaning that, as some of y'all know already, I'm someone who is a mental health practitioner and a former therapist, but I'm also somebody who's been in therapy for over 32 years themselves. Growing up in Columbia, South Carolina, I was always somebody who sort of checked all the boxes, I guess. I was highly successful in football and track. I was a really good student, went to governor's school, Boys State. I checked all the boxes, in terms of success in high school. However, when I got to college, I really began to struggle with mental health issues. One of the things that contributed to this was being cut off from, or not cut off, but being away from my support network. Being away 5 hours from my hometown, I didn't have the amount of support around me that I did at home. And one of the main things that contributes to college student mental health issues is being disconnected from your support network, or being away from your support network. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the talk. But basically, I kind of got to college and kind of went buck wild. I was involved in, I played college football and did track in college. I was focused on that, partying at my fraternity house, basically doing everything except for focusing on my studies. And college, as y'all know, can do that. I mean, you get distracted in all these different activities and lose your main focus. Around my sophomore year in college, I started exhibiting signs of mental health issues. I had my first panic attack the summer between my sophomore and junior year. And then one of the other things that you should know is that I was a ROTC scholarship student in college, meaning that I was going through the ROTC program, and then I would be commissioned upon graduation as a second lieutenant. Well, when I started having significant mental health issues, I had to obviously disclose that to the military. And at the time, the military did not have a lot of mechanisms in place for working with soldiers who had mental health issues. Now they're fantastic about that, and there's much more support there. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big supporter of the military. In fact, my son's at basic training right now. But at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of support to help someone with mental health issues stay in the military. So as a result of that, I lost my ROTC scholarship. My senior year, I basically had a breakdown, mental health wise. I had to leave college in the middle of my senior year and move back to my home state of South Carolina to get mental health treatment. And at the time, I felt like basically my whole world was falling apart. Here I've been the successful person my whole life, and all of a sudden mental health had really issues had brought me to my knees, basically. I'd lost my scholarship. I had to leave college in the middle of, in November when I was supposed to graduate in May. But it was absolutely the thing that needed to happen at the time. So I went back to Columbia. I started therapy. I got psychiatric meds and really started to rebuild my life. And, it's funny, there's a song by Garth Brooks called Unanswered Prayers. And in that song, he talks about how closed doors in your life can lead you to the place that you were meant to be to begin with. So all growing up, the last thing in the world I thought I would be is, number one, a teacher, and number two, a therapist and a mental health advocate. So it's strange how sometimes in life, crises and stuff, even though we don't understand them at the time, they could lead us to where we were supposed to be to begin with. And I absolutely believe that today, God has been able to take a broken, imperfect person and use them to promote mental health awareness, particularly with college students and with my fellow faculty members. So I consider what I'm able to do today in speaking in the community, leading this on-campus support group, a blessing. And it helps me understand back, in college when I had suicidal ideation, when I had bipolar disorder, it helps me understand the struggles that I went through back then, being farther down the path of recovery now and being able to help students now. Okay. I went on to get my master's degree, and actually before that, I worked as a child abuse investigator for the state of South Carolina. Did that for a number of years, kind of got burned out on that. Went back to get my graduate degree, my master's of social work degree from the University of South Carolina, and my Ph.D. in social work from the University of Alabama. When I first came to Western back in 2004, I was not completely out with my mental health issues. Mainly because I was afraid that if other faculty members and administrators knew that I had bipolar disorder, that they might judge me on that rather than the quality of my work. So for the first number of years here at Western, I was not out with my mental health issues. However, once I got tenure here, I started to be much more open about talking about what I go through in the recovery process, how to live successfully with bipolar disorder. And I really started becoming more of a presence in the community and in the university community and talking about my mental health struggles. And basically, over time, I noticed that we at WKU, since I've been here, have had 6 student suicides here on campus. And about 7 years ago, we had one involving a young lady who killed herself in her dorm room here because of mental health stuff. And I started to think, is there some kind of service that I can help provide here on campus to also build on what the counseling center does? Most universities, as y'all know, have a counseling center where students can get free therapy. But here, that was pretty much all we had at Western. We did not have like a support group. And one of the things that I learned, I became a member of NAMI as a master's student, is the importance of support. Because we talk a lot about therapy and medicine, but there's that other sort of element of the recovery process, which is support, peer support. So being that I was attending a NAMI Connections group in the Bowling Green community as a member, not as a leader, although that would come later, I thought, what if we took a Connections group that was meeting in our local NAMI chapter and bring it to campus? Now, y'all are aware that around the country, in fact, we're forming one of these chapters right now. We have NAMI on campus, which is basically a student group to help promote mental health issues on campus and to combat stigma. But this was a little bit different. And then this is actually taking a support group from the community and just bringing it over with 2 facilitators to the college campus. So that's basically how we sort of conceptualized the problem and then what our response was to it. This presentation that I'm doing today with y'all, I actually presented last year at NAMI's national conference, NAMICon, and I had a lot of response to it. I had over 200 people come to the talk, It was an online conference, and I had a ton of people afterwards ask me questions about how they can bring a connections group onto their college campus. So this is somewhat new territory and something that's pretty innovative in scope. Now let's talk about what are the issues, what are the specific issues that college students today are facing. I do a lot of talks here on campus. In fact, I just spoke to a sorority the other night, and I'm getting ready to talk to a fraternity next week. What are the specific things they are struggling with in the current college student today? Well, one of the interesting facts is that basically about 25% of young people between the ages of 18 and 24 have a diagnosable mental illness. And that always shocks the students when I said that. I mean, basically 1 in 4 of y'all has a diagnosable mental illness right now. They find that to be shocking. And 3/4 of lifetime cases of mental health conditions begin before they're 24, right? And as y'all know, mental health researchers and therapists can identify symptoms of mental health issues at a younger age now. I know it's a little bit controversial because people wonder about diagnosing people at too early an age, but the research reveals that we can see symptoms of serious mental illness younger and younger in people, and identify them and help them begin the recovery process earlier and earlier. Here's the good news, though. I tell the students who come to this support group, you are getting a better grasp on your mental health when you're younger in age. So many of them do not have mortgages. They haven't gotten married yet. They don't have what they like to call a college big boy and big girl jobs. So while they're here in sort of a protected environment on campus, it's the best time for them to start their recovery process, because not as much is at stake, right? A lot of the times. So that is something that kind of eases their mind a little bit, letting them know that, getting started earlier means that you're going to have more of a lifetime of stability in health and happiness. I tell them the worst situation is when you see someone who could benefit from support and therapy and meds who refuses to. And as a result, they live their whole life. They live a lesser life as a result, right? About half of college students say that they have regular symptoms of depression, whether that's situational depression or more organic in nature. 80% of college students say that they feel stressed on a daily basis. So the number one symptom for mental health in college students today is chronic anxiety, okay? And we're going to talk in a little bit about what some of those sources of anxiety are. There's sort of a belief that college students live a charmed existence and, they basically are partying and having a great time all the time on campus. College has its own unique set of stressors that can really impact current students today. And we'll talk about what those are in just a little bit. Here's something that's interesting, my mental health brothers and sisters. Almost half of college students who have a diagnosable condition do not seek help. So about half of them who have diagnosable conditions for some important reasons do not seek out mental health services. And what I've found both in research and in working with college students is stigma is the number one reason that they do not seek out help. Many of them have services available, but they don't want to be labeled as crazy or I work with the fraternity here. I'm an advisor for a frat house. They don't want to be seen walking into the counseling center because they might be seen as weak, especially men, who are sort of socialized not to show emotion. We're supposed to be tough all the time and not admit emotional feelings and weak because it's viewed as weakness. A lot of those folks need help, but they're not willing to go get it because of stigma. And obviously that's a very important thing at the national level to NAMI. And we're constantly with NAMI fighting stigma in society. And in my case, on college campuses. About half of students rate their mental health as below average or poor. So this is a really, really important factor in college. And basically 64% of people who leave college, like I did, it's due to some kind of mental health condition. So one of the big mantras that you hear on college campuses is retention of students. You hear that from administrators all the time. If university administrators truly want to focus on retaining students and keeping them to graduation, they need to provide more mental health funding and more mental health services. That's what the research shows, and I can tell you anecdotally as well, that's what needs to happen. We need to pour more money into mental health services and advocacy on campuses. Now, briefly to move on to suicide. Suicide is, after accidents, the second leading cause of death on college campuses. So it's a major issue that we need to address. Here's one that blows my mind, y'all, and the students too. There are over 1,000 suicides on US college campuses each year. 1,000. And, you know, it's not that often I get news all the time, you know, about colleges and universities. It's not uncommon at all to read stories about young people taking their lives. And as I said, here at Western, we've had 6 people since I started here who have done so on campus. And 10% of college students have thought about suicide in the last year. So this is something that's really, really important. Whether you are working on a college campus or you're providing services to college students off campus, we need to be thinking about these issues because they're really critical and they're really important. Now, I'll quickly talk about launching the group. One of the things that was most important in getting this group started is having the buy-in of our counseling center. So we actually went and met with the therapists at our counseling center at our university and told them what NAMI had to offer. One of the things that I'm amazed, y'all, is how few people on college campuses know about NAMI. Even my students that I trained for years, some of who had social work backgrounds, a lot of them just don't know about NAMI. So one of the things that we tried to do is educate university therapists and staff about what NAMI brings to the table. And one of the things that's so important is when our students graduate, they become ambassadors of NAMI. They go all over the country, sometimes the world, and they take NAMI with them, and they're aware of what NAMI has to offer, and they can share that with not only their own family members, but with other people. So it was really important that we have the buy-in of the counseling center in making this group a success. So basically, we have the counseling center stuff at our meetings if they need therapy, because obviously we distinguish between therapy and support. And then they have our stuff at their counseling sessions to where they can say, you know, I'm doing therapy with you, but here's something else you can do on campus that might be valuable. Here's a peer support group. So it's really important if you want to do this on a college campus that you have the buy-in of your counseling center, your administrators, and so on. I won't go too much into this in terms of meeting format, because I know that a number of y'all have either been in connections or you facilitate connections. But I will mention just a few brief things here. One of the issues that's come up with this is what about students who aren't in person? And so what I'm in the process of doing is creating an online support group for our distant students, right? The students who came to meet face-to-face did not want the sessions being broadcast out on the internet, because some of them were talking about, you know, killing themselves, really serious things. So the students at the face-to-face group did not want it shared with other people, but we're going to develop instead a specialized group online for students, you know, who are struggling. We found that things like having food at the meetings and drinks is a great recruitment tool to get students to come to the meeting. I always tell them when we have the meetings, you know, you could have chosen to be anywhere else. You could be at a fraternity party, you could be doing whatever, but you chose to be here tonight because you prioritized your mental health. So I always say that at the beginning of every meeting, as when they come in, you know, you could have done anything else, but you chose to prioritize your mental health and be here tonight. Because I want them to know that, you know, to give themselves credit for that and let them know we appreciate it. Sometimes we have a student who comes in and has suicidal ideation. It's good to have 2 facilitators, so one person can pull that student out and help that student while the other person is leading the meeting. I remember not too long ago, I was literally coming into a meeting and I got a call about a student somewhere else on campus who had a knife and was threatening to stab themselves. So I had my co-facilitator start the NAMI meeting while I dealt with that and got that student connected to, you know, help. It's good to have 2 facilitators, trained NAMI connections facilitators if at all possible. Again, many of y'all are familiar with the connections rules that we have. One of the things we learned is that college students are very mindful about time, and the 21st century Gen Z student does not have a sustained amount of attention span as much as some of us. So we try, and I know that these things normally last an hour and a half. We try to keep it in an hour because many of them have other things to do on campus, and their attention span, frankly, sometimes is not conducive to doing an hour and a half long meeting. When you lead these groups with college students, the same group dynamics apply as if you did it in the community. You have to, work on things like making sure people don't monopolize time in the group. You have to minimize crosstalk. You have to deal with transference and counter-transference issues. So the same type of issues that you would have if you did a NAMI group in the community, you have with a group of college students as well. Principles of support, again, y'all are familiar with these, many of you, but we do have them read the principles of support and the rules for the group. We go around and have each student recite one in order so we can get that established at the beginning of the meeting. In terms of issues, obviously anxiety, depression are two major ones. Those are the big two that we talk about. Suicidality is a big one. Some of the other issues that we talk about are personality disorders. What we call double trouble, people who have alcohol, substance abuse issues and mental health issues. And there's a good number of students who that applies to. Eating disorders is not uncommon for people to talk about. And then, things like trauma and PTSD and so on. For many of the students, this is their first exposure to the mental health services arena. In fact, a number of them have not even gone to the counseling center yet. So we are actually their first entry. We are literally their first entry into the system. So we have to let them know what's available. Okay. That's why we share information from other resources. A big part of this is rather than us telling the students, monopolizing the time, letting them talk to other students and help them address some of their problems, which is a core of peer support. Rather than us giving our expert advice, I lead this with the president of NAMI, the chair of NAMI, who has a lot of mental health experience, kind of like I do, both as a consumer and a practitioner. But we want the students to offer suggestions to each other. That gets them talking more and they have more ownership over the group. In terms of the topics, we have a different discussion topic at every meeting. Some of the things we talk about are how to get assessed. Many of them have never gone for a preliminary assessment. So we talk about what that means. How we broker services, how we refer people to stuff. We talk about that. I've even actually walked students up to the counseling center before for services and say, this is how you do an intake. This is where this service is offered. Giving that little bit of extra effort can oftentimes get them more invested in the recovery process. Time management is a major issue for students. I'm one of the biggest guilty people here in terms of not managing my time. And that obviously can produce anxiety and other mental health stuff. So we talk about that. Relationship issues is a big one for college students. Many of them are getting into serious relationships for the first time. Some of the relationship issues are things like relying on your boyfriend or girlfriend or partner as your therapist. Rather, we teach them the importance of keeping a distance between going to get mental health and their personal relationships. Because as we all know, trying to use your partner as your therapist can produce disastrous consequences. Other relationship issues, a lot of the times relationships form in the group, but we teach them, that's great because you have somebody you can text or pick up the phone, hit up on Instagram for support. But at the same time, two people who are both wounded and they haven't dealt with the wound ain't the best couple sometimes, right? So we talk about that. We talk about intersectionality, not only what is it like to be a student with depression, but what is it like to be a gay Black male college student who also suffers from depression? So the intersection of all these factors and how they can produce certain situations. You would think that professors would be very sensitive about mental health stuff, but the truth is that many are not. Even though it is protected by the American Disabilities Act and we have student accessibility services, there are still a number of faculty members who will not give students extensions on things or consideration because of their own mental health bias. So one of the things we try to do is teach them how to talk to their professor about their mental health issues. And then pick occupational planning. Some people come in and they want to go into professions that are extremely high stress and anxiety. Well, if that person has chronic anxiety, that may not be the best profession or the major for them to be in. So we talk about what majors and careers fit your mental health profile. We think that that's important for college students as well. Moving on. Here's some lessons that we've learned, and I'll try to bring this, looks like I only have about 8 more minutes, so I want to bring this down the home stretch here. We need to know our role in that we are providers of support and not therapy. I am a trained therapist and did that for a while, but when I'm in that group, I am a facilitator and also somebody who's a consumer myself. So I have to be careful about knowing my role and not stepping across into the therapy realm. You have to get the buy-in of your people on campus, as I said before, your counseling center, your administrators, your faculty, and so on. Obviously, with any mental health stuff, there's going to be political factors involved. I'm on our state NAMI advocacy committee, so I do a lot with, helping advise on policy planning. But in a university environment, politics are very, very important. And so, like we had one administrator here at our school, a vice president who will remain unnamed, they're not with us anymore, who fought us tooth and nail about being able to send out an email about our group. So here is somebody who is supposed to be promoting student retention and wellness of students who will not let us send out an invitation to students to be a part of our group. Fortunately, the current one is very supportive, but so there's political factors involved in this as well. I already talked about relationship formation, so I won't cover that. Many of the people that come to our groups are from other cultures, and in their culture, mental health issues are highly stigmatized. Me and my fellow presenter, Becky, we've had students come to the meeting from Arabic countries, for example, where mental health is viewed as weakness. So we try to educate them about that and how to deal with their family members when they go back to their country of origin, because sometimes, it's considered to be a character flaw rather than a legitimate medical condition in their home country. We do get requests from outsiders to come to our group, like psychology students want to come and see what it's like to be in a support group, or journalists want to come sit in with us. We do not honor any of those requests because in our confidential group, it's really important that people feel safe and able to come out and talk about their issues. So I've had to turn down, and Becky has had to turn down a lot of people who want to sit in the group who are not mental health consumers themselves. Now, you don't have to have a diagnosis to come to the group, but you do have to be struggling with mental health issues. So we don't allow reporters and journalists, social work and psych students, and so on. There's a real importance in terms of, sorry, gotta get away. Move this up here for a second. Oh, stories, yeah. So college students, rather than just sharing a bunch of facts with them, they want to hear personal stories. So Becky and I, when we do the group, when it's appropriate, we share our own struggles and our own stories of struggles that we've had in our life with mental health issues. Those resonate more with students than just sharing facts and figures, although we do share those as well. We also say, listen, we're examples of people who at once in our life didn't feel like living. We were suicidal. We were misunderstood. We didn't know where to get help. But now through recovery, we can have a good life and we can go on to do important things to help other people with the same situation. So stories and working with this age group is really important, being able to tell your own personal story and your narrative. Dual role relationships, making sure, if somebody comes to the group who is one of my students, then historically me and my co-presenters or my co-facilitators, they would handle the group if the person felt uncomfortable with me being in the room because I'm also their professor. So that's an issue with dual role relationships. Sometimes in a group, you're going to have quiet people that don't talk a lot at first, especially in a group like this. Some people just don't feel comfortable sharing their diagnosis or what they struggle with. But if you are patient with those people over time, they can become some of the most important people in the group and also leaders in the group. And obviously, just like NAMI on campus, which we're developing a chapter, promoting campus awareness in discussing about mental health issues. One of the things that I will take a little credit for is that the Greek community here at Western, they are dialoguing more and talking about depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other stuff. Promoting more of a campus dialogue, if you will, about mental health issues is important. Really coming down to the end here, but I want to say some takeaways real quick. Obviously, these are valuable things to do on college campuses, so I hope that y'all will consider in your own community. I hope that y'all will consider maybe doing a NAMI Connections group on a college campus in your community, because it's been effective for us. And it's a really good example of how NAMI, the leading organization for mental health advocacy, can partner with a university to do something that really can impact college students and their mental health. That you give them tools for life. So these students, most of them are like, late teens, early 20s, but they're going to take those tools with them wherever they go, and they can use NAMI as a resource the rest of their life. So word of mouth, I've found for NAMI, is one of the best ways to share what we do. And if you get them into NAMI and talking about NAMI in college, they're going to take that with them wherever they go and promote NAMI, nation and worldwide. It gives them a safe place to talk about issues with people going through the same issues. That I can't emphasize that enough. The thing when I ask students, what's the biggest value of the group? It's a safe space for them to come to talk to me and Becky about what they're struggling with. Because many times, there's a lot of social pressure in college. Students are not always going to be open and out about stuff, but this is a place where they can be out. One of the things I'm going to start doing is bringing tissues to meetings, because a lot of students, get real emotional during the meetings, and they really let it out, their emotions and stuff. And then, increasing faculty's awareness, making sure that faculty are aware of what mental health issues are, that they're legitimate, so that they are better able to work with students who are going through crisis. Many times the students will open up to a professor that they trust, just like they do when they're teachers, when they're younger, when they're children. They're more likely to open up to a professor. I can't tell you how many students have talked to me after class about some kind of mental health issue they're going through, and then I refer them to the appropriate service, So anyway, sorry, I had to kind of go a little bit faster through this, but this is kind of just an overview of some of the different issues that college students are struggling with, and also, how you can, a pretty innovative service that you can implement in your community to help address those issues. So we have about 15 minutes now, I believe, until 1:20. So I just want to open up the floor for any questions you might have. Also, Becky, if you're on here, can you say hello to my co-facilitator is actually on the call, and I want to give her props as well, because she does a great job doing this as well. So
I am here. Appreciate you. Can't wait for our next meeting.
Becky is our chair of our NAMI Bowling Green and is awesome. We've appeared on TV several times, on local TV, talking about NAMI, and she does all kind of wonderful things in the community to promote, what NAMI is about. So thank you, Becky, for all that you do.
Jay, you have a couple comments in the chat. Some of them are kudos. Peter Taylor says, thanks for this. It's really spot on.
Thank you, Peter. It means a lot to me that you said that, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
And your co-chair said you are a great advocate for students.
Thank you. I couldn't do that without you. I mean, literally. So thank you.
And I personally am thanking you because my husband is a WKU alumni, and my daughter just toured your campus here recently because she's graduating early from high school in December. That's
wonderful. Make sure that that you share that there's this group. So if she ever struggles, that she can come to our group. We'd love to have her,
She's high anxiety, so she will definitely need the group. The
cool.
more intelligent they are, the more stressed they are, right?
Yeah, it's funny. We have a high school on campus called the Gatton Academy.
She almost went. She was invited in middle school, but she didn't go because she was afraid to leave home.
Really?
Yes, she was invited to the Gatton Academy at W.K.U and Moorhead for math.
That's fantastic. We've had a number of Gatton Academy students come to our meetings actually, because they're with high achieving academic high school students. They tend to put a lot of self pressure on themselves in terms of performance. So, and they're also away from their families. So there's that issue of, you know, sometimes the social support not being there. So yeah, we've had Gatton Academy students come to our meetings before in the past.
That's important to know. I have another one that's up and coming that is 1 year away from being able to join the Gatton program if she chooses to, and she's in math as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, so let them know about, and again, we have the capacity now to send student all emails, so we'll be sending more of those to, you know, all the students, so all the students can be aware of what we offer.
You also have another thank you from Bryson Jones of NAMI Louisville. He said, "Thank you, Jay."
Oh, thank you so much, Bryson. We appreciate it. And, you know, if I can ever be a resource for anything related to college student mental health, please hit me up. You know, and I also welcome anything. If anything has worked in your communities that we didn't talk about, please share them, because we want to share information, you know, to help better address this issue.
Bryson and yourself might be a good connection. He does the young adults support groups up to age 24.
Oh, that's
in
great.
NAMI Louisville.
That's perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Bryson, let's talk for sure, because I think you share a lot with me that would be helpful.
Yeah, Dr. J, I was actually going to put that in the chat, how I want to collaborate and kind of talk to you about a couple things. So I'll probably hit you up probably next week, and we can just either schedule a meeting or just go back and forth with emails.
Yes, sir. I would love that. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
So it looks like we have a few minutes left before your next session. So any other thoughts or comments or anything anybody want to share?
You can put it in the chat or unmute. We have time.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Mary says, thank you. This has been a long time coming and has been needed for a long time. It's unfortunate it's taken so long, but glad it's here. Thank you so much, Mary. And I agree with you. I was really surprised, Mary, that there aren't more support groups on college campuses. Now, we're not the only show in town. There's a group called, what's the one I'm thinking about? Gosh, I just drew a blank. There's another big one nationally that does a lot of stuff on campus that I'm drawing. Can anybody?
I think it's Mountain Comprehensive Care. In our area, they're very involved on the KCTCS campuses in that system.
We also have
And
a NAMI on campus there.
I think maybe Bluegrass CTC. I think they have a NAMI, and there's one other one, but Mountain Comp does an awful lot with
great.
college campuses, I believe.
Jay, are you thinking of the Sandy Hook Promise?
That's part of it. Yeah, definitely they're involved in that. Somebody also wrote Depression Bipolar Alliance. Yeah, we had actually one. It's funny, Tracy, we had one of our NAMI Connections group members who tried to start that here. I think they were around for like a year, maybe two, and then she graduated and it sort of died out. But the other group I think I was thinking of is called Healthy Minds or something like that. think it's called Healthy Minds. I could be wrong. Becky, does that strike a bell to you?
And not right offhand.
Active Minds. Yes,
Oh.
thank you, Tracy. Active Minds and Depression Bipolar Alliance are two major groups, in addition to NAMI on campus, that promote awareness and that also even have some support group mechanisms with them. Thank you, Tracy. Active Minds and Depression Bipolar Alliance. But, you know, those have been more, to get back to the other person's comment, it's been more in recent years that those have developed and that they've become strong on college campuses. So I'm really thankful that we have the support of our state director, Melanie, in developing a NAMI on campus here, because that's been lacking a long time. So our next goal here at Western is to establish an active NAMI on campus organization here. So I heard earlier that some of y'all have those already. So any advice you can give me and Becky on that would be like greatly appreciated.
Yeah,
New territory.
Dr. J, actually, that's one thing I was going to talk to you about. Like we're doing right now. I don't know if you know what a Job Corps is. You know what Job Corps is?
Sure do.
Yeah, so we're doing one right now. There's a location in Louisville where we're doing one to do them. So it's like a NAMI on campus, but we're also doing a lot of other things. So one of the ideas that we do have with the NAMI on campus is that we're going to do something called a green bandana project. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
I have not, but that sounds like a great thing to talk about. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So what it is really campuses will get green bandanas, and what they'll have is that they'll have it on their backpacks or something like that. And what they'll do is that anyone who has a green bandana, they will have like resource cards for suicide prevention type of things. So, you know, if there is someone who is experiencing suicide prevention type of things or experiencing suicide thoughts, the people with the green bandanas will be able to have those resources for them to get in contact with. So that's what we've been trying to do with Job Corps and trying to work on that right now. But I'll send more of that information over to you because we're still trying to do one in Kentucky. We're starting with them first. But definitely, I know there's other states that have done it. I think Wisconsin actually has one that's going right now. So I'll send you more of that information. But anytime I'm always talking about NAMI on campus, I always try to let people know about green bandana projects because I think that would be something really good. I mean, we're not necessarily we're talking about mental health, but we're also talking about suicide prevention. And, you know, they kind of go together a lot in some ways. So I'm always telling people about that idea, you know.
I love it. I'd love to try something like that here at the green bandana at Western. So please, yes, could you use your advice on how to make that happen?
Will do. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, sir. Have a few more minutes. Any other thoughts or? Well, I appreciate everybody and your time. And again, thank you for all your wonderful comments and feedback and stuff. And just appreciate y'all's time and, inviting me to come talk about the college student mental health. So thank you so much. And God bless all of you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. J.
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all.